America is no longer just a superpower, it's now at the very center of the Vatican's most urgent concerns. For the first time in history, a pope who holds an American passport stands before the world not as a symbol of national pride, but as a moral voice confronting the deep divisions, political turmoil, and spiritual crises shaking the United States. Pope Leo XIV's approach is not about politics or power, it's about healing a nation wounded by distrust, polarization, and a loss of dignity. His message is clear: the world is watching, and America's next steps will shape the soul of our age. What happens next could change the course of history. Subscribe now and comment below. What do you think is the most urgent issue Pope Leo XIV should address in America? Part 1. America on the Pope's urgent list, a call to healing and hope. The United States of America stands today not only as a global superpower, but as a nation facing profound challenges that touch every aspect of its social, political, and spiritual life. Pope Leo XIV, the first pontiff to hold American citizenship, has placed America squarely on his list of urgent concerns. His approach is marked by a deep pastoral sensitivity, a spirit of humility, and a profound commitment to healing a divided nation. From the moment of his election, Pope Leo XIV has recognized that America's crises are not isolated political issues, but symptoms of deeper wounds of distrust, polarization, inequality, and a loss of shared values. His mission is not to intervene in partisan politics, but to offer a moral compass rooted in the gospel, calling all Americans to a renewed sense of unity, dignity, and common purpose. The Pope's vision is clear: America must confront its divisions with courage and compassion. He urges leaders and citizens alike to listen to one another, to seek reconciliation, and to build bridges where walls have been erected. This is a call to conversion not only personal, but communal, a call to rediscover the bonds that hold a society together beyond ideology and interest. Pope Leo XIV's pastoral heart beats with the hope that America can become a beacon of justice, peace, and solidarity in a fractured world. He sees the potential for renewal in the very diversity that has sometimes been a source of conflict. His message is one of inclusion, respect for human dignity, and the pursuit of the common good. In this script, we will explore the multifaceted challenges facing America, the Pope's unique perspective as a leader with deep ties to both the Vatican and the United States, and the ways in which his humility and pastoral wisdom offer a path forward. We will delve into the social, political, and spiritual dimensions of the crisis, always grounded in the compassionate and hopeful spirit that defines Pope Leo XIV's ministry. This is not just a story about a nation in crisis. It is a story about the power of faith to transform, the courage to heal, and the promise of a future shaped by love and justice. As we journey through these 10 parts, we invite you to open your heart to the message of Pope Leo XIV and to consider how each of us can contribute to the healing and renewal of America and the world. Part 2: The Deep Wounds of America. Understanding the crisis through the eyes of faith. To understand why America is on the urgent list of Pope Leo XIV, one must look beyond the headlines and statistics. The Pope sees not only the surface of political strife or economic uncertainty, but the deeper wounds that have shaped the soul of the nation. These wounds are complex and interwoven: racial injustice, economic inequality, the erosion of trust in institutions, the epidemic of loneliness and isolation, and the spiritual hunger that so many experience in the midst of material abundance. Pope Leo XIV approaches these wounds not as a distant observer, but as a shepherd who has walked among the people. His years of ministry in the Americas have given him a unique perspective. He has listened to the stories of immigrants and refugees, of families torn apart by violence, of young people searching for meaning in a world that often feels empty and cold. he has seen the pain of division, not only between political parties, but within families, churches, and communities. The Pope's response is rooted in the Gospel, to see each person as a beloved child of God, worthy of dignity and respect. He calls the Church in America to be a field hospital, a place where wounds are tended with compassion and hope. This means more than offering charity or temporary relief. It means working for justice, building relationships, and addressing the root causes of suffering. One of the most urgent wounds is the crisis of trust. In recent years, Americans have witnessed scandals in government business and even within the Church. Many feel betrayed by leaders who have failed to live up to their responsibilities. Pope Leo XIV does not shy away from this reality. He acknowledges the pain and anger that many feel, and he calls for a new culture of accountability, transparency, and humility. He urges leaders to listen to the people they serve, to admit mistakes, and to seek reconciliation rather than blame. Another deep wound is the polarization that divides the nation. The Pope sees this not simply as a political problem, but as a spiritual crisis. When people see each other as enemies rather than neighbors, when dialogue breaks down and suspicion replaces trust, the very fabric of society is at risk. Pope Leo XIV calls for a new kind of politics, one that puts the common good above personal or party interests, that seeks understanding rather than victory, and that honors the dignity of every person, even those with whom we disagree. Economic inequality is another urgent concern. The Pope has spoken often about the dangers of an economy that excludes, that values profit over people, and that leaves millions behind. He challenges America to remember its Ramas as a land of opportunity, not just for the privileged few, but for all. He calls for policies that protect the most vulnerable, that ensure access to education, health care, and dignified work, and that foster a spirit of solidarity and generosity. Racism and discrimination are wounds that have scarred America for generations. Pope Leo XIV has listened to the cries of those who have been marginalized and oppressed, and he calls the Church to be a prophetic voice for justice and equality. He urges Catholics and all people of goodwill to confront the sin of racism, to examine their own hearts, and to work for reconciliation and healing in their communities. The Pope is also deeply concerned about the epidemic of loneliness and despair that affects so many, especially the young. In a society that is more connected than ever through technology, many feel more isolated than ever before. Pope Leo XIV sees this as a spiritual crisis, a hunger for meaning, belonging, and love. He calls the Church to be a home for all, a place where every person is welcomed, valued, and accompanied on the journey of life. At the heart of all these wounds is a spiritual hunger, a longing for God, for purpose, for a sense of belonging to something greater than oneself. Pope Leo XIV believes that the Church has a unique role to play in addressing this hunger, not by imposing doctrine or demanding conformity, but by witnessing to the love of Christ, by building authentic relationships, and by serving those in need with humility and joy. The Pope's approach is marked by deep humility. He does not present himself as a savior or a judge, but as a fellow pilgrim walking with the people through the challenges and uncertainties of our time. He listens more than he speaks, prays more than he preaches, and seeks to build bridges rather than walls. His leadership is a model of servant leadership, one that puts the needs of others first, that seeks the good of all, and that trusts in the power of God's grace to heal and transform. Pope Leo XIV's vision for America is one of hope, but it is not naive. He knows that the wounds are deep, and the road to healing will be long, but he believes that with faith, courage, and a willingness to listen and learn from one another, renewal is possible. He invites all Americans, Catholics and non-Catholics alike, to join in this journey of healing, to rediscover the values that unite us, and to work together for a future marked by justice, peace, and solidarity. As we continue to explore the ways in which Pope Leo XIV seeks to confront the crisis facing America, let us remember that true change begins in the heart. It is only through humility, compassion, and a commitment to the common good that we can hope to heal the wounds of our nation and build a society where every person is valued and loved. The Pope's message is clear: America's future depends not on power or wealth, but on the courage to love, to forgive, and to hope. Part 3. A Shepherd's Approach. Pope Leo XIV's Path to Dialogue and Reconciliation. Pope Leo XIV's vision for America is not built on grand gestures or political maneuvering, but on the quiet strength of a shepherd's heart. He understands that the wounds of a nation cannot be healed by force, nor can trust be restored by decree. Instead, he believes that true reconciliation begins with listening humility and a willingness to walk together even when the path is uncertain. From his earliest days as Pope Leo XIV, has emphasized the importance of dialogue. For him, dialogue is not simply a strategy for avoiding conflict. It is a way of life rooted in the gospel. Jesus himself engaged in dialogue with all, with the powerful and the powerless, the righteous and the sinner, the believer and the doubter. The Pope sees in this example a model for the Church and for society to approach every person with respect, to seek understanding before judgment, and to build relationships of trust that can withstand the storms of disagreement. In America, where polarization has become a defining feature of public life, Pope Leo XIV calls for a new culture of encounter. He urges leaders and citizens to move beyond slogans and sound bites, to listen deeply to one another's stories, and to recognize the humanity in those with whom they disagree. He knows that real dialogue is not easy. It requires patience, courage, and a willingness to be changed by what we hear. But he believes that only through authentic encounter can the nation begin to heal its divisions. The Pope's approach is deeply pastoral. He encourages the Church in America to be a place where dialogue is not only possible, but encouraged. Parishes, schools, and communities are invited to create spaces where people can share their hopes and fears, their joys and sorrows without fear of condemnation. Pope Leo XIV sees the Church as a school of communion, where the art of listening is practiced and where differences are not threats, but opportunities for growth. In his meetings with American bishops, priests, and lay leaders, the Pope consistently returns to the theme of accompaniment. He reminds them that their first task is not to solve every problem or to win every argument, but to walk with their people, to share their burdens, and to offer the hope that comes from faith. He encourages pastors to be close to their flock, to know their names and their stories, and to be signs of God's mercy in a world that often feels harsh and unforgiving. Pope Leo XIV's commitment to dialogue extends beyond the Church. He reaches out to leaders of other Christian communities, to people of different faiths, and to those who profess no faith at all. He believes that the search for truth and justice is a journey that all people of goodwill can share. In his view, the Church is called to be a bridge, not a fortress, a field hospital, not a courtroom. He invites all Americans to join in the work of building a society where every person is valued and where the common good is the measure of success. One of the most powerful aspects of the Pope's approach is his willingness to acknowledge the failures of the Church. He knows that the wounds of abuse, cover-up, and betrayal have caused deep pain and mistrust. Rather than offering excuses or minimizing the harm, Pope Leo XIV meets with survivors, listens to their stories, and asks for forgiveness. He insists on transparency, accountability, and a commitment to justice. For him, healing begins with truth, and reconciliation is only possible when the dignity of every person is honored. The Pope's humility is evident in his interactions with ordinary people. He visits prisons, hospitals, shelters, and schools, not as a distant authority, but as a fellow pilgrim. He listens to the stories of immigrants and refugees, of those struggling with addiction or mental illness, of families torn apart by violence or poverty. In each encounter, he seeks to reflect the compassion of Chatrist, who came not to be served, but to serve. Pope Leo XIV also recognizes the importance of education in healing the nation's wounds. He calls on Catholic schools and universities to be places where critical thinking, moral formation, and civic responsibility are cultivated. He encourages educators to help students see the world through the eyes of others, to appreciate the richness of different cultures, and to become builders of peace in their communities. At the heart of the Pope's approach is a deep trust in the power of grace. He knows that human efforts alone are not enough to overcome the divisions and injustices that afflict society. He invites all people of faith to pray for the nation, to seek God's guidance, and to open their hearts to the transforming power of love. He believes that when people come together in humility and trust, miracles of healing and reconciliation are possible. Pope Leo XIV's vision for America is not utopian. He is realistic about the challenges ahead. But he is also profoundly hopeful. He believes that the American people, with their spirit of resilience and generosity, can rise above their divisions and build a future marked by justice, solidarity, and peace. He invites everyone, Catholic and non-Catholic alike, to join in the work of healing, to become artisans of dialogue, and to sow seeds of hope in a world that longs for healing. As we reflect on the Pope's path to dialogue and reconciliation, we are reminded that the journey begins with each one of us. It is in our families, our workplaces, our neighborhoods, and our churches that the culture of encounter must take root. By listening with humility, speaking with kindness, and acting with courage, we can help to heal the wounds of our nation and build a society where every person is seen, heard, and loved. Part 4. Unity and the Common Good. Pope Leo XIII's Vision for a Renewed America. Pope Leo XIII's approach to the crisis in America is rooted in a profound conviction: the nation's future depends on its ability to rediscover unity and to work for the common good. In a society marked by deep divisions, political, social, cultural, and even spiritual, the Pope's message is both a challenge and a promise. He believes that unity is not simply the absence of conflict, but the fruit of a shared commitment to justice, compassion, and the dignity of every person. For Pope Leo XIV, the common good is not an abstract idea. It is the lived reality of a society where each person is valued, where the vulnerable are protected, and where everyone has the opportunity to flourish. He draws inspiration from the Gospel, which calls believers to love their neighbor, to care for the stranger, and to seek peace and reconciliation. This vision is at the heart of Catholic social teaching, and it shapes every aspect of the Pope's ministry. The Pope recognizes that true unity cannot be imposed from above. It must be built from the ground up through relationships of trust, reshape, and mutual responsibility. He encourages Americans to look beyond their differences and to discover the values they share: a longing for justice, a desire for peace, and a hope for a better future for their children. He calls on communities to come together in dialogue, to listen to one another's stories, and to work together for solutions that serve the common good. One of the central themes of Pope Leo XIV's vision is the importance of solidarity. He teaches that the well-being of each person is intimately connected to the well-being of all. In a society where individualism often reigns, the Pope's message is a call to rediscover the bonds of community and to recognize that we are all responsible for one another. He challenges Americans to ask not only what is best for me, but what is best for us. Solidarity for Pope Leo XIV means standing with the poor, the marginalized, and the excluded. It means advocating for policies that protect the most vulnerable, that ensure access to education, healthcare, and dignified work, and that promote the full participation of every person in the life of society. The Pope urges leaders to resist the temptation to serve only the interests of the powerful, and instead to govern with an eye to the needs of the least among us. The Pope's vision for unity is also deeply rooted in the concept of subsidiarity, the idea that decisions should be made at the most local level possible by those who are directly affected. He encourages communities to take responsibility for their own well-being, to organize for the common good, and to hold leaders accountable. He believes that a healthy society is one where families, neighborhoods, and local organizations are empowered to make a difference. Pope Leo XIV is acutely aware of the challenges facing America: the widening gap between rich and poor, the persistence of racism and discrimination, the erosion of trust in institutions, and the rise of violence and despair. He does not minimize these problems, but he refuses to give in to cynicism or despair. Instead, he calls for a renewed commitment to the common good, a commitment that begins with each person and extends to the whole nation. The Pope's message is especially urgent in the context of the global challenges facing humanity: climate change, migration, pandemics, and the threat of war. He reminds Americans that their actions have consequences far beyond their own borders, and that true greatness is measured not by power or wealth, but by the ability to build a more just and peaceful world. He invites the nation to lead by example, to be a beacon of hope and solidarity in a world that desperately needs both. At the heart of Pope Leo XIV's vision is a deep trust in the capacity of ordinary people to bring about change. He believes that every person has a role to play in building unity and promoting the common good. He encourages citizens to get involved in their communities, to vote, to volunteer, to support one another, and to speak out for justice. He calls on the Church to be a model of unity, a place where people of all backgrounds can come together in worship, service, and friendship. The Pope's vision is not naive. He knows that unity is hard work, that it requires sacrifice, patience, and a willingness to forgive. He acknowledges the pain of past injustices and the reality of ongoing conflicts, but he also believes that healing is possible and that the journey toward unity is itself a source of hope and strength. Pope Leo XIV's humility is evident in his approach to leadership. He does not claim to have all the answers, nor does he seek to impose his will. Instead, he listens, learns, and invites others to join him in the work of building a more just and compassionate society. He models the kind of servant leadership that puts the needs of others first, and that seeks the good of all. In his speeches and writings, the Pope often returns to the image of the Good Samaritan, a satori that transcends religious boundaries and speaks to the heart of what it means to be human. He challenges Americans to see the stranger not as a threat, but as a neighbor, to respond to suffering not with indifference, but with compassion, and to build bridges of understanding and solidarity across every divide. As America faces the challenges of the present and the uncertainties of the future, Pope Leo XIV's vision offers a path of hope. It is a path that calls for courage, generosity, and a willingness to put the common good above personal interest. It is a path that requires each person to look beyond themselves and to see the face of Christ in every neighbor. The Pope's message is clear: unity is possible, but it must be chosen and built day by day in the ordinary acts of kindness, justice, and love. The common good is not a distant dream, but a reality that can be created when people come together in faith, hope, and solidarity. In this vision, America can find not only healing for its wounds, but a renewed sense of purpose and a future filled with promise. Part 5. The Role of Faith and Community in America's Renewal. Pope Leo XIV understands that the renewal of America cannot be achieved by political means alone. It requires a profound spiritual awakening, a return to the core values that have sustained communities through times of trial and transformation. Faith, in its deepest sense, is the foundation upon which healing and unity can be built. The Pope calls on the Church in America to be a beacon of hope and a source of strength for all people regardless of their background or beliefs. He emphasizes the importance of community, the small groups, parishes, and neighborhoods where people gather to support one another, share their joys and sorrows, and live out the gospel in tangible ways. In his pastoral visits and messages, Pope Leo XIV highlights the power of prayer, reconciliation, and acts of mercy. He encourages Catholics and all people of goodwill to engage in dialogue that transcends political and cultural divides, fostering understanding and respect. The Pope's vision is one where faith is not confined to private belief, but is expressed through active love and service to others. The Pope also recognizes the vital role of families and local communities in shaping the moral fabric of the nation. He urges leaders to support policies that strengthen families, promote education rooted in values, and create opportunities for meaningful work and participation in civic life. Moreover, Pope Leo XIV stresses the importance of listening to the voices of the marginalized, the poor immigrants, racial minorities, and those who feel forgotten by society. He believes that true renewal comes from embracing the dignity of every person and building a society where justice and compassion prevail. The Pope's approach is deeply pastoral and inclusive. He does not seek to impose a single vision, but invites all Americans to join in a shared journey of healing and hope. His humility shines through in his willingness to walk alongside the people, to listen to their stories, and to offer encouragement rooted in faith. In this part of his ministry, Pope Leo XIV also calls for a renewed commitment to education, not only academic, but moral and spiritual education that forms hearts and minds to be agents of peace and justice. He envisions schools and communities where young people are nurtured in an environment of respect, dialogue, and service. The Pope's message is clear: America's renewal depends on the strength of its communities and the depth of its faith. It is a call to each person to be a light in their own corner of the world, to live with integrity, compassion, and courage. As the nation faces complex challenges, Pope Leo XIV's vision offers a path forward grounded in hope, unity, and the transformative power of faith and community. This part of the script invites reflection on the role of faith and community as essential elements in confronting America's crises and building a future marked by justice and peace. Part 6. Facing New Frontiers. Pope Leo XIV, America and the Challenge of Our Age. Pope Leo XIV's arrival as the first American pontiff comes at a moment when the world, and the United States in particular, faces challenges that previous generations could scarcely have imagined. From the rise of artificial intelligence to the deepening wounds of social division, from the urgent need for environmental stewardship to the ongoing struggle for justice and dignity, Pope Leo XIV's vision is both rooted in tradition and boldly open to the future. One of the most striking aspects of Pope Leo XIV's early ministry is his willingness to name artificial intelligence as one of the most critical issues facing humanity. In his first formal address, he spoke not only to the cardinals who elected him, but to all people of goodwill, warning that AI presents profound questions about human dignity, justice, and labor. He invoked the legacy of Pope Leo XIII, whose encyclical Rerum Novarum addressed the social upheavals of the Industrial Revolution and made clear that the Church must once again rise to meet the defining challenges of a new era. Pope Leo XIV's concern is not simply technological. He recognizes that AI and digital transformation are shaping the very fabric of society, how we work, how we relate, how we understand what it means to be human. He calls for a moral and spiritual discernment that places the dignity of the person at the center of every decision, warning against systems that exploit, dehumanize, or marginalize the most vulnerable. In this, he echoes the social teaching of the Church. Technology must serve people, not the other way around. But the Pope's vision is not only about the future. He is deeply attentive to the wounds of the present. In his first homilies and public statements, he has called for unity, peace, and a renewed sense of belonging values that resonate deeply in a United States struggling with polarization, distrust, and the erosion of civil discourse. Pope Leo XIV's message is clear. The path forward is not through louder voices or harsher rhetoric, but through listening dialogue and a renewed commitment to the dignity of every person. He has spoken directly to the American people about the need to disarm communication of all prejudice and resentment, fanaticism, and even hatred. Let us free it from aggression. We do not need loud, forceful communication, but rather communication that is capable of listening. In a society where public debate is often marked by contempt and division, the Pope's call for dignity and dialogue is a powerful challenge and a necessary one. Pope Leo XIV's vision for America is also shaped by his experience as a pastor among the poor and marginalized both in the United States and in Peru. He brings to the papacy a deep understanding of the struggles faced by immigrants, the working class, and those on the peripheries of society. He has consistently advocated for racial equity, the protection of migrants, and the stewardship of creation, echoing and expanding on the priorities of Pope Francis. His commitment to inclusivity and reform is rooted in the legacy of the Second Vatican Council, which he has pledged to uphold and advance. He envisions a church that is more collegial, more attentive to the voices of the faithful, and especially to those who are often overlooked or rejected. He has affirmed the importance of diversity, the need for courageous dialogue with the contemporary world, and the Church's mission to express loving care for the least and rejected. In his greeting to the world, Pope Leo XIV invoked the words of the risen Christ. Peace be with you, he called for a church that builds bridges, encourages dialogue, and remains open to all who are in need of charity, presence, and love. His vision is for a synodal church, a church that moves forward together, always seeking peace, charity, and closeness to those who suffer. The Pope's American roots give him a unique perspective on the challenges and hopes of the United States. He is keenly aware of the country's history of religious diversity and the ongoing struggle for equality and justice. He knows the pain of division and the promise of renewal. His leadership invites Americans to rediscover their highest ideals, to build a society where every person is valued, and to work together for the common good. Pope Leo XIV's early words and actions reveal a leader who is humble, attentive, and deeply committed to the mission of healing and unity. He does not offer easy answers, but he offers hope, a hope grounded in faith, in the dignity of every person, and in the conviction that together we can face even the most daunting challenges of our age. As America stands at the crossroads of history, Pope Leo XIV's vision is a call to courage, compassion, and solidarity. It is a call to look beyond fear and division, to embrace the possibilities of the future, and to walk together hand in hand with God and with one another toward a world marked by justice, peace, and love. Part 7. The Challenge of Justice and Reconciliation. Pope Leo XIV's Call for America. Pope Leo XIV's vision for America is inseparable from his unwavering commitment to justice and reconciliation. He sees in the wounds of the nation not just social or political problems, but deep moral and spiritual crises that require a response rooted in the gospel. For the Pope, justice is not merely a matter of laws or policies, It is about restoring right relationships between individuals, communities, and God. Reconciliation, in turn, is the fruit of justice, the healing of division, the mending of broken trust, and the creation of a society where every person is valued and welcomed. From the earliest days of his pontificate, Pope Leo XIV has spoken with clarity and compassion about the need for justice in America. He has addressed the persistent scourge of racism, calling it a sin that wounds not only its victims, but the entire body of society. He has urged the Church and all people of goodwill to confront the legacy of discrimination, to listen to the voices of those who have been marginalized, and to work tirelessly for equality and inclusion. For the Pope, this is not a political agenda, but a mandate of faith, a call to see every person as a brother or sister created in the image of God. The Pope's approach to justice is holistic. He recognizes that economic inequality, lack of access to healthcare and education, and the exploitation of workers are all forms of injustice that undermine the common good. He has challenged leaders to enact policies that protect the vulnerable, promote fair wages, and ensure that no one is left behind. He calls for a culture of encounter where the needs of the poor and the excluded are not ignored, but placed at the center of national concern. Pope Leo XIV is also deeply attentive to the wounds caused by violence, whether in the form of gun violence, domestic abuse, or the broader culture of aggression that pervades much of public life. He calls for a conversion of hearts for communities to come together in peace and for a renewed commitment to nonviolence. He urges Americans to reject the logic of retribution and to embrace the path of forgiveness, dialogue, and restorative justice. Reconciliation for Pope Leo XIV is not a passive process. It requires truth-telling repentance and a willingness to repair what has been broken. He encourages the Church to be a leader in this work, offering spaces for honest conversation, supporting victims of injustice, and promoting healing in families and communities. He knows that reconciliation is often slow and painful, but he believes it is the only path to lasting peace. The Pope's message is especially urgent in the context of America's diverse and pluralistic society. He celebrates the richness of different cultures, traditions, and perspectives, and he calls for a unity that does not erase difference, but honors it. He invites Americans to move beyond the false choice between unity and diversity, insisting that the two must go hand in hand. In his view, a just and reconciled society is one where every person has a voice, where every community is respected, and where the bonds of solidarity are stronger than the forces of division. Pope Leo XIV's humility is evident in his willingness to listen and to learn. He meets regularly with leaders from various backgrounds, religious, civic, and grassroots, and he seeks to understand the unique challenges facing different communities. He encourages the Church to be a place of welcome for all, especially for those who have felt alienated or hurt by past failures. He calls for a Church that is transparent, accountable, and always ready to ask forgiveness and to begin again. The Pope's vision for justice and reconciliation is not limited to America. He sees the nation's struggles as part of a global reality, where the wounds of injustice and division are felt in every corner of the world. He calls on the United States to be a leader in promoting peace and justice internationally, to welcome refugees and migrants, and to use its influence for the good of all humanity. At the heart of Pope Leo XIV's message is a profound hope. He believes that despite the pain of the past and the challenges of the present, America can become a model of justice and reconciliation for the world. He invites every person to take up the work of healing, to listen, to forgive, to stand up for what is right, and to build bridges where others have built walls. In this spirit, Pope Leo XIV's call to America is clear: justice and reconciliation are not optional ideals, but essential tasks for anyone who seeks to follow Christ and to build a society worthy of the human person. The journey is long, but the promise is great. A nation renewed in justice, united in peace, and radiant with hope. Part 8. The dignity of every person. Pope Leo XIV's message to a divided America. Pope Leo XIV's ministry is built on a foundational conviction: every human being possesses an inalienable dignity given by God and deserving of respect, protection, and love. As he addresses the crisis in America, this conviction shapes every word and action. For the Pope, the renewal of the nation begins not with policy or politics, but with a radical rediscovery of the value of every person, regardless of race, religion, nationality, or social status. In his homilies and public addresses, Pope Leo XIV returns again and again to the gospel image of the Good Samaritan. He challenges Americans to see the stranger not as a threat, but as a neighbor, to recognize in every face the image of Christ, and to respond to suffering with compassion rather than indifference. He calls for a culture of encounter where people cross boundaries of fear and prejudice to meet one another in truth and love. This message is especially urgent in a society marked by exclusion and division. Pope Leo XIV speaks directly to those who feel unseen or unwanted: the poor, the immigrant, the elderly, the disabled, and all who are marginalized. He reminds them that their lives matter, that their voices must be heard, and that the Church stands with them. He urges Catholics and all people of goodwill to reach out to listen and to walk with those who are hurting. The Pope's vision of dignity is not sentimental. It is demanding calling for real changes in attitudes, structures, and policies. He insists that a just society is one where every person has access to the necessities of life: food, shelter, healthcare, education, and meaningful work. He challenges leaders to create systems that serve the common good, not just the interests of a privileged few. He calls on communities to welcome the newcomer, to protect the vulnerable, and to build environments where all can thrive. Pope Leo XIV also addresses the crisis of meaning that afflicts many in America, especially the young. He sees a generation searching for purpose, belonging, and hope in a world that often seems cold and impersonal. He encourages families, schools, and churches to be places where young people are valued, listened to, and empowered to use their gifts for the good of others. He reminds them that their dignity does not depend on success or popularity, but on the simple fact of being loved by God. The Pope's message extends to the digital world where so much of modern life unfolds. He warns against the dangers of dehumanization, bullying, and isolation that can occur online. He calls for a digital culture that respects privacy, promotes truth, and fosters authentic relationships. He urges everyone, especially the young, to use technology as a tool for connection, learning, and service, rather than as a weapon of division or harm. In all these ways, Pope Leo XIV's focus on dignity is a call to conversion, a change of heart and mind that leads to action. He invites Americans to examine their own lives. How do we treat those who are different from us? Do we listen to the stories of the marginalized? Are we willing to sacrifice comfort for the sake of justice? The Pope believes that when people truly see the dignity of others, barriers fall, wounds begin to heal, and communities are transformed. The Pope's humility is evident in his approach. He does not speak from a place of superiority, but as a fellow pilgrim aware of his own need for mercy and grace. He acknowledges the failures of the Church and asks forgiveness where it has fallen short. He models the kind of leadership that listens, learns, and serves. Pope Leo XIV's message to America is ultimately one of hope. He believes that a nation that honors the dignity of every person can overcome its divisions and build a future of justice, peace, and solidarity. He calls on all people, believers and non-believers alike, to join in this work, confident that every act of kindness, Every word of encouragement and every effort to include the excluded helps to build the kingdom of God on earth. As America continues to face its challenges, the Pope's vision offers a way forward, a society where no one is forgotten, where every life is cherished, and where the dignity of each person is the foundation of all that is just and good. Part 9, Building Bridges, Pope Leo XIV's Pursuit of Dialogue, Peace and Global Responsibility. Pope Leo XIV's vision for America extends far beyond its borders. He sees the United States not only as a nation in need of healing, but also as a country with a unique responsibility to the global community. In a world marked by conflict, migration, and environmental crisis, the Pope urges America to become a builder of bridges across political divides at home and between peoples and nations abroad. Central to Pope Leo XIV's approach is the call for authentic dialogue. He believes that real change begins when people are willing to listen to one another, to seek understanding even in disagreement, and to work together for the common good. In his meetings with American leaders, religious, civic, and grassroots, he emphasizes that dialogue is not weakness, but strength. It is a path to peace, a way to overcome fear and suspicion, and a foundation for lasting unity. The Pope's commitment to dialogue is rooted in his deep respect for the diversity of the American people. He celebrates the nation's heritage as a land of immigrants and a beacon of freedom, while also acknowledging its struggles with exclusion and injustice. He calls on Americans to honor their history by welcoming the stranger, protecting the vulnerable, and standing in solidarity with those who suffer. Pope Leo XIV is especially attentive to the plight of migrants and refugees. He reminds America of its own story, a nation built by those who journeyed in hope, and urges it to remain a place of welcome and opportunity. He challenges policies and attitudes that dehumanize or exclude, insisting that every person, regardless of origin, deserves respect and compassion. For the Pope, the test of a nation's greatness is how it treats the least among its people. The Pope's pursuit of peace is also global. He calls on America to use its influence not for domination, but for the promotion of justice, reconciliation, and the common good. He encourages leaders to engage in diplomacy to resolve conflicts through negotiation rather than violence, and to work for disarmament and the protection of human rights. He prays for peace in places torn by war and pleads for the world to remember the suffering of the forgotten. Environmental stewardship is another pillar of Pope Leo XIV's message. He echoes the call of his predecessors, especially Pope Francis, for a renewed commitment to caring for creation. He urges America to lead in the fight against climate change, to protect the Earth's resources and to ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. He sees environmental justice as inseparable from social justice, reminding all that the poor and vulnerable are most affected by environmental degradation. The Pope's humility is evident in his willingness to learn from others. He seeks dialogue not only with Catholics, but with people of all faiths and none. He values the contributions of scientists, activists, and ordinary citizens who are working for a better world. He encourages the Church in America to be a partner in this work, to collaborate across boundaries to serve the common good, and to be a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. Pope Leo XIV's vision is not one of naive optimism, but of hope grounded in faith and action. He recognizes the challenges and setbacks that come with building bridges, but he believes that perseverance, courage, and humility can overcome even the deepest divides. He calls on Americans to reject cynicism and despair, to believe in the possibility of change, and to commit themselves to the hard work of peace. At the heart of the Pope's message is a profound trust in the power of encounter. He believes that when people meet face to face, share their stories, and recognize their common humanity, walls begin to fall and new possibilities emerge. He invites every person to become a builder of bridges in their families, communities, and in the world. As America seeks to find its place in a rapidly changing world, Pope Leo XIV's call is clear: embrace, dialogue, pursue peace, and accept the responsibility to care for one another and for the planet. Through humility, courage, and a commitment to the common good, the nation can help lead the way toward a more just and peaceful future for all. Part 10. A New Chapter. Pope Leo XIV's enduring message for America and the world. As the world absorbs the significance of an American pope, the message of Leo XIV is already rippling across the United States and beyond. His elocution is more than a historical novelty. It is a sign of a changing era, a call for a renewed moral vision, and a challenge to both church and society to rediscover the dignity that binds all people together. From his first words, "Peace be with you all," to his ongoing appeals for unity, dialogue, and compassion, Pope Leo XIV is shaping a new chapter for the American spirit and the global church. Leo XIV's approach is not to blur the lines between church and state, but to offer a moral witness that transcends politics. He reminds Americans that the deepest crises facing the nation, broken trust, polarization, the loss of connection and belonging, are not just political or economic, but spiritual and relational at their core. He calls for a conversion of hearts, a lowering of the temperature in public life, and a return to the language of dignity and respect. We do not need loud, forceful communication, but rather communication that is capable of listening, he said, challenging the coterie of contempt that so often dominates public discourse. Pope Leo XIV's vision is rooted in Catholic social teaching, and the Augustinian tradition. The Church is to be a leaven of unity, a sign of hope, and a servant to the world's most vulnerable. He calls the faithful to walk together, to love one another, and to build a church founded on God's love. A sign of unity, a missionary church that opens its arms to the world, proclaims the word, allows itself to be made restless by history, and becomes a leaven of harmony for humanity. In his inaugural homily, he spoke candidly of the wounds caused by hatred, violence, prejudice, the fear of difference, and an economic paradigm that exploits the earth's resources and marginalizes the poorest, urging all people to become a small leaven of unity, communion, and fraternity within the world. For America, the presence of a pope who understands its culture, its struggles, and its promise is both a comfort and a challenge. Leo XIV's words and actions encourage Americans to move beyond old prejudices, to embrace religious and cultural diversity, and to remember that the true greatness of a nation lies in its ability to honor the dignity of every person. He has spoken out for free speech, a free press, and the importance of listening to the marginalized and voiceless. He has called for an end to contempt and dehumanization in public life, insisting that belittling, dehumanization, and contempt that has become normalized in society is not at all normal, and that there is a better way. Leo XIV's message is not only for Catholics or Americans, but for all people of goodwill. He invites everyone, believers, seekers, and skeptics, to walk together toward a world where peace reigns, where differences are valued, and where love is the foundation of every human relationship. He calls for a missionary spirit that does not close itself off in small groups or superiority, but opens its arms to all so that all may experience God's embrace. His papacy begins at a time of deep division and uncertainty, but his hope is rooted in the rock of God's generosity and mercy. Like the sower in the Gospel, Leo XIV scatters seeds of hope, confident that even the hardest soil can one day bear fruit. He urges Americans and all people to become better soil, to open their hearts to transformation, to trust in God's love, and to build a future where unity, dignity, and peace are possible for all. As this new chapter unfolds, Pope Leo XIV's enduring message is clear: America and the world can be healed not by power or policy alone, but by a revolution of love, humility, and hope. Let us walk together as one human family toward a world where every voice is heard, every life is cherished, and every heart is open to the possibility of peace. Let the words and witness of Pope Leo XIV inspire you. Speak with dignity, seek unity, and become a bridge builder in your community. Share your hopes for America's future in the comments, and subscribe for more stories of faith, courage, and renewal. Together we can answer the Pope's call and help create a world where love triumphs over division and hope never fails.